this video, we're going to do a case study on one of my students who went from $9,000 a month to $30,000 a month, and we're going to talk about what she did to get there. We're only going to talk about 4 things in this video because I want it to be digestible. I want you to be able to take what I'm talking about in this video and either implement it or avoid it in your own cleaning company. This is relevant to you if you're just starting out or if you've already got a few people on your team and you're just looking to scale. It's also relevant to you if you've already scaled, but things are kind of feeling chaotic. I have seen literally companies that are doing 7 figures that still struggle with the things that I'm going to talk about in this video. So without further ado, let's start with topic number 1, which is our service menu. Clients in this industry are interesting because when we are servicing their home, we're only there for a few hours. But when they come home, they're there for hours and days and look at what we've just serviced and unfortunately have time to critique it. They're looking around at their home so often and for so long that they can tell when one baseboard is missed. So that puts a lot of pressure on us in this industry to be basically perfect. And one thing that derails that perfection is inconsistency. And usually inconsistency stems from an unclear service menu. So my tip number 1 is to clarify what your service menu is. Really just nail down what is on your service menu and what is not. That's also just as important. A mistake that I made is for years, I didn't actually have a checklist for what got done at a clean. And I just assumed that we would be able to play the game of telephone and everybody would just kind of know what to do. And that is just not the case. So I recommend having a really solid checklist that everybody has access to on the team. And you have a system around that checklist so they're actually checking it off and using it when they're on the clean. The client needs to be aware of what's on that checklist as well. What I don't recommend doing is just kind of looking at what needs cleaned in a home and cleaning it as and when. So you come into a home, you kind of have like a routine down, but not really. And you see that something's dirty and you're there already, so you just get it. And nothing is really relayed to the client. The client isn't like in the process of figuring out what gets done and what doesn't get done. And so in their mind, they don't ever really know what to expect. Highly recommend having a checklist and sticking to it. Even when you see something that's dirty, intentionally skip it if it's not on your checklist. Which leads me to tip number 2, which is to offer to clean those extra things, but in a super duper organized way. Most beginners in this industry, I think, miss out on upselling completely. So upselling is when we see something that needs done outside of our normal routine clean. Like let's say you don't do baseboards on routine cleans. So you see that the baseboards really need done. Well, maybe it's just in one specific area. You're there anyway, so you just get it really quick. That is an opportunity to upsell that client on baseboards. What I recommend is having a routine with upselling. So have somebody on the team, usually a lead, who is in charge of kind of looking at upselling opportunities. Are the doors getting, do the doors need some love? Do the baseboards need some love? Windows, blinds, anything that's not on your routine cleaning list. If there's an opportunity to upsell that client and have them approve us doing more on that clean, 2 things happen. Number 1 is the client is more satisfied because they know exactly what's happening, they know exactly what to expect, and their house is more clean because we're doing more. And number 2 is we make more money because we're able to do more in that clean. It's a win-win. This only gets tricky when it's done in a really unorganized way. So what I don't recommend is on the clean, texting the client while you're there and asking if they want you to add at that time. Obviously, that's going to throw off the schedule for the rest of the day and you are going to run behind and it's going to just throw everything off. What I do recommend is asking in advance. So having some sort of system where on the clean, you just take a note of everything that could need a little more love that you could add on next time or in the future sometime soon. Relay it to the client and let them know when you actually have time to add those items. Maybe it's not even the next clean that you can add those items. Maybe you're too booked, but maybe it's in a couple of cleans where you can add those items because it's going to add an additional couple hours and you can plan for it in advance. All right, moving on. Tip number 3 is decentralize your training. So what do I mean by decentralized training? Most companies, especially when they're just starting out, they'll have one single trainer, and that trainer is usually the owner of the company because the owner is really the only one who knows the systems and the standard operating procedures because none of them have even been written down at that point, which is fine. You have to start somewhere. So then things start to get a little bit more organized, you start to kind of have a system in place, and then you hire somebody else to take that over for you. So now you've got a trainer. It's not the owner doing all of the training anymore, but now you just have one trainer. That does solve some problems because now the owner isn't in charge of training, but at the end of the day, you still only have one trainer. That is a problem because when you start to grow your company, there are so many training opportunities that are missed when you don't have a trainer present. Something that I did not understand when I first started my cleaning company is that training really never ends. There are always opportunities opportunities to train people up, and those opportunities happen on site. So if you've only got one trainer and you've got 3 teams on site throughout the day, the trainer is only present on one of the teams, meaning the other 2 teams have no system of training, no system of quality control, and nobody to even identify what those training opportunities are, except for the clients. So we get all the way to the point where we get a complaint before we ever even know that there's a problem on those other 2 teams. So my recommendation is that you always have more trainers than you have teams. So if you've got 3 teams out in the field, so let's say you've got 3 teams of 3 people, so you've got 9 employees. My recommendation is that 4 of those 9 employees are trainers. So you always have more trainers than you have teams. So if you've got 3 teams, you've got 4 trainers. If you've got 4 teams, you've got 5 trainers. I want to be clear, if you can have more than that, I would absolutely love for you to have more than that. So anytime you can hire a trainer, I would definitely recommend it. But they are a more difficult person to hire. So sometimes it takes longer to find trainers than it does cleaners. So that's why I always shoot for 1 more trainer than the number of teams that you have on site. All right, and my final tip is to have those trainers manage. This is something that my student who went from 9,000 to 30,000 did really well. So she had it to where she was just managing every single person on her team. That doesn't pan out very well because it takes a lot of time to manage people, for one, but 2, a lot of the management opportunities, again, are happening on site. They're not necessarily happening when they're not cleaning, because when you own a cleaning company, the team is together 99% of the time when they're cleaning, not in the office, not in meetings. It just doesn't work like that. So when you have one person managing, it's just the exact same issue as having one person training. There are so many missed management opportunities. So what happens when those opportunities arise on site? Let's say somebody is maybe late showing up to a clean. Well, if there's no manager on site, then that gets escalated to the owner. The owner then has to text that cleaner or call them into the office, or some awkward escalation that usually doesn't pan out well in terms of how it's received by the employee. It seems like such an escalation when sometimes it doesn't warrant it, just because of the logistics of the owner not being on site. It turns into a phone call that's awkward, as well as the fact that when you're the owner and you're not on site anymore because you've got, the system of training and you've got cleaners, so you don't really have to be on site anymore. You're in the office, you're doing back end stuff while the team on site is building rapport with one another. You're not necessarily there building as much rapport with the team as everybody else. Of course, our goal is to build rapport with everybody, but it's just not the same as the managers who are in the trenches with you. If you're working side by side, if you're already in this industry, if you are cleaning side by side with somebody every single day, the rapport that you build with them is just not going to be the same as an office employee that you never see. So that's where my advice comes in when you have managers on site who can take care of those quote unquote escalations for you. So if somebody shows up late to a clean, it's just a quick conversation. It's just a quick conversation. It does not have to be an escalation. It's just a quick note to correct that behavior. And then they go on about their day. Again, so many opportunities arise like that on site. And it's so important to have somebody there that can actually take advantage of those opportunities, because management is not just dealing with things when they go wrong. Management is also correcting behavior so that you can show people what it looks like to be successful in your company. And it's really hard to do that when you're not with your employees. Something that I would recommend doing if you're new to delegating management is to put as much structure behind it as possible. Here are some things that I have in terms of structure around management. So I would definitely recommend management scripts. If somebody is late, what do you say? If somebody calls in, what do you say? If somebody says something inappropriate on site, what do you say? If somebody is talking to the client and they're saying something that they shouldn't, or approving something that they shouldn't, what do you say? Just having as many scripts as possible. It's not possible to have a script for literally everything, but when you see how most things are taken care of with the scripts that you do have available to them, they start to understand how to deal with things that aren't scripted. I recommend having management triggers. Management triggers are, when this happens, do this. So when somebody is late, you need to do this. When somebody calls in, you need to do this. So basically those scripts that we were just talking about are situational. So they come up in certain situations, and your managers need to be aware of what those situations are. They need to be aware of what their management triggers are. I recommend your managers hosting pre-clean huddles. So at the beginning of the day, they kind of just get the whole team together right before they go inside, and they just talk about what is important for the day. I also recommend weekly meetings. Meetings are obviously a little bit more difficult when you're smaller because you've got a small margin and it's time spent when you're not cleaning, which means it's going to take right out of your margin. So have them sparingly. But as soon as you can afford to have meetings, I recommend a weekly basis. And I recommend you as the owner hosting those meetings with your managers. Your managers are going to have questions about how to handle certain things. There are going to be things that come up throughout the week that they don't know if they handled correctly or that needs to be celebrated by you so that they know for sure that they handled it correctly. Having structure around that and being able to meet them on a weekly basis to, again, either correct certain behavior from your managers or to reaffirm that they did something correctly is really beneficial so that they can learn how to manage. It is a skill that definitely needs to be developed. And before we go, our sponsor for today is Jobber. My student who went from $9,000 to $30,000 a month in revenue also uses Jobber to this day. I used Jobber all the way up until I sold my business, and actually the person who bought my business used Jobber as well. It's just a really good software for this industry in particular. It has everything you need. So all the systems that I just went through with the trainers, with the checklist, with the service menu, with the add-ons, with keeping track of every single client, what they've ever asked for, what they are asking for in the future, scope of work, any special notes, entry instructions, all of that can be tracked in Jobber. And not only do you have access to it, your team has access to it, and the customers have a client portal. So it's just a great software all around, and I wouldn't recommend anything else really. I've seen a bunch of other softwares through my mentorship program, other students using similar programs, but none of them really compare to Jobber in my opinion. So I would highly recommend it. If you guys want to try it for free, there's going to be a link in the description. And to wrap it up, I hope this video was helpful. All of these tips come from what I think are the most important things that my student did to sustain her growth from 9,000 to 30,000. There are so many things that you can do to help grow. Obviously, we didn't even touch on sales, which will be a topic for another video, but there are just a handful of things that I see people that succeed do really well, and people who do not succeed and do not have this growth don't do very well. These are in line with the most important things that I think she did. So take that and do with it what you will. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in my next video.